Hello, everyone. Thanks for stopping by. Tony back. Tony's LPs are us. And today I just have a little bit of like a public service to all you kids. I'm calling you kids because I'm old. I've been collecting records, since the mid '60s, late '60s. So I've been doing it for over 50 years. In some cases, my record collection has records that are probably from going back to the original records of 46, the 10-inch, and then going back to 78s from the turn of the century. But what I'm talking about today is just, I'm going to try to get this to the people who are starting out collecting or the people who are back into collecting vinyl. It's about the music. If you like CDs, if you like streaming, running through Bluetooth, that's fine. It's about the music in a sense. But my channel specifically was, was christened with my love for vinyl, LPs that like I said, I've been collecting for 50 years. So I'm kind of a person who has been through all the different prices, all the different ranges. I remember when records, a brand new record I talked about when I worked in a record shop in college, a brand new Billy Joel record, The Stranger, was probably discounted at $3.99, maybe a $5.98 list or $6.98 list. Now today, when records are list price, they're not really discounted for the most part. But what I'm going to talk about today is a new term I heard about recently called loud budgeting. Now, loud budgeting was kind of invented by this young comedian called Lucas Battle, and he put this on TikTok. He put on loud budgeting, and he explained what it was. And I'm going to explain what loud budgeting is, but I'm also going to put it into the perspective of the audiophile, the vinyl collector, the music lover who is now getting into this great hobby of ours called vinyl collecting, or music love, or audiophile, whatever terminology you might want to use. I've always considered myself an audiophile, but I don't really go around using that term, because using that term to some folks, they think you're kind of snobby, but that's not the case. Audiophile, they just love to get that fine, realistic sound through their system, and they're audiophiles, and that's fine. Some people are, autophiles, where they need to hear that Ferrari engine, etc. But loud budgeting began, I believe, Lucas Battle TikTok this on TikTok, if that's the correct terminology. I have TikTok, but I don't know how to use it. He TikToked loud budgeting on TikTok, I think December 29th, and it's over 2 million TikTok views right now. It's actually gone viral. People are actually doing their own loud budgeting. And what loud budgeting means, it's a new terminology for people to use when they don't want to spend money. And what I mean by that is, in the past, it was, maybe before loud budgeting, before this thing went viral, right? Loud budgeting meant, or the opposite of loud budgeting, they called it some type of soft luxury or discussing luxury, where it was, someone would say, let's go out and go to a restaurant tonight. And you're kind of trying to budget your money. You're trying to save for a house. You're trying to save for a car. Maybe you're trying to save to enough to get a down payment to rent an apartment, because apartment rents are sky high right now. And in most major cities, I think rents have gone up 30%. And then you need a deposit, a security deposit. So before, that person or that gal or that young guy or middle age or whatever age you are may have said, you know what, I really don't feel like going out tonight. I just ate, But in reality, they're trying to budget their money. They're trying to save a few dollars to put a down payment on a car, to put a down payment on rent, to buy something that they need, like a new washing machine or a new refrigerator or whatever, okay? So loud budgeting, again, is a new terminology for people to use when they don't want to spend money. So this is my VC channel, Tony's LPs Are Us, little rant on loud budgeting in regard to record collecting, vinyl collecting, audiophile. Now, by audiophile, that means your system. You know, we all know we could constantly spend money on our system, but if you're loud budgeting, you can't spend money on your system. So be happy with what you have at the moment. If you're trying to budget for something more important than a sound system, then do it. Don't because of peer pressure or VC pressure or video pressure, things you see on YouTube now. Oh man, I have to have that so-and-so turntable. You know, my turntable's fine, but I need that so-and-so turntable so I get the best possible sound. Then you have to get the best possible cartridge. So from your turntable that's doing fine for you right now, because you're falling under this pressure of being an audiophile that really can't afford to be an audiophile at this point, because you have to move up in increments. You can't go from a $300 Techniques with an Audiophile cartridge that maybe cost you $200 to a VPI 40th anniversary that may cost you, whatever, thousands of dollars, and a great Dynavector cartridge, or a Hana cartridge, or a custom made cartridge from Japan, and then a fat arm instead of the standard arm. So you could really go nuts. But if you're loud budgeting, it's okay to say, you know what, guys, my friends that are audiophiles, my VC friends that are audiophiles, I'm trying to budget. My fiance and I are trying to put down a down payment on a house. We're trying to save that. So that extra $4,000 that you'd have had spent for a little increment of improvement, because improvement isn't spending money. It's small increments. You may spend $10,000 and get back a 10% increment on your sound system. So you're not getting 1,000% better sound system. You're going to get small increments, because it's all about the tweaks and everything, which I'm going to talk about a little bit here. But the loud budgeting, let's go to records now. Now, loud budgeting with records, that's incredible, because I am going to now talk about my true feelings about all these audiophile pressings, all these reissues. They're all great. They all have their place. And if you could afford it, God bless you. But if you can't afford it, hold on. Go for an original pressing. Go to flea markets. Go to yard sales. Go to thrift shops. Buy used audiophile records. Because if you're an audiophile and you have a few copies of a specific audiophile pressing that you want to sell, buyer can feel confident that record is in great condition. Excellent to near mint, I'm sure, because an audiophile takes care of his records. So if you're loud budgeting at this point and you want the Van Halen one steps that are just being released this year, they were on pre-order for a year. Now, they're $170 shipped with taxes each. They're $150 plus shipping and taxes. If you get free shipping, they're $160 or whatever your taxes for your state, because you're paying that sales tax for your state. Now, this is just a catalog here, okay? Now, that's just a quick catalog. I'm not going to mention the name you could see there, but they're all the same. Catalog prices are all the same. Each one of these records are pressings that came out in the 70s or 80s or 60s. And each one of these records, in their new reissue form, are going for $30 and up. And the average, without counting a one-step to put into that calculation, about $50. Because if you go for a Mo-Fi, that's a double RPM 45, double 45 RPM record, they're $55 and $60. The new Rhinos reissues are I believe, $60. And then you have shipping on top of that. And they're reissuing common records. They're reissuing the Cars' first record, which sold millions. Not common, but it sold millions. So it's out there. So hence, do you want to spend $60 or do you want to find a really nice original for say $20 at a record store? If you think about it, you're going to buy the Van Halen first album on One Step, which is going to, I don't have it because I canceled my order. I had ordered all of them from Music Direct, but I just couldn't justify 170, 170, 170, 170, and on and on and on. Six records or 5 records, whatever it was. So I canceled that order because I have the original Van Halens, and I'm not a huge Van Halen guy. You know, I could appreciate Van Halen, but I'm not that type of metal, and I don't like the fancy fretwork. And they have their place. I have their records. I love the Van Halens and Roth and Hagar and everything, but not enough to spend $170 per record of records that I think sound great. Because if you keep your records in good condition, they will sound great. Now, for instance, you buying a record for say 150, one record, one album. In that case, it's a double 45. But one album, one rock album, or jazz, or if it's a Miles Davis, if it's a Coltrane, Thelonious Monk, Quincy Jones, whatever, Sinatra, vocalist, whatever. It's a one album for $150. You go into a used record shop, you may be able to pick up 10 really incredible quality pressings for $100, or maybe 150. Maybe they're $12 each, $15 each. Sometimes you'll find a bargain. You have to dig. You watch my videos. I'm constantly digging. I found which I never thought I'd find because I'm out there a lot. I'm not, I'm out there and people even tell me I have records to sell. Would you like to look at them? I found a Black Sabbath first or Paranoid, I think it is, on the Swirl label, the British Swirl label, and I put it on a video. Just incredible. Now that record, I would spend $200 on that record that it would cost on the gray market, on eBay, on whatever, for a used record store. But I was able to find one for a fraction of that cost. So of course I got it. So if you look, if you don't really need to have it tomorrow, someday you will find that record. Someday you will find that pressing that you really wanted at a fraction of what you would pay for a one step or a UHQR. I don't want to pick on one steps because Rhino has a high fidelity collection now that's really good for $40 or $50 or $60, whatever. Tone Poet. There's constant reissues coming out. And there's reissues that are all analog, and you're paying for that all analog. But with loud budgeting, you're going to say to your friends, you're going to say to yourself, you're going to say to your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your husband or wife, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I can't justify $170 for a Van Halen record. That how many times are you really going to listen to the Van Halen record? 5 times? Who has the time? We are inundated with so much quality information today, be it movies, audio, YouTube, shows that are even free concerts that the towns do with great tribute bands. So we don't have the time to sit there and like I would do in college or when I was in high school and listen to the first Boston album, every day for a month where it's in your DNA. We're not doing that anymore. Okay. Now this is my point about going to a thrift shop, going to a yard sale. You have to really educate yourself on to look at records to determine are they going to sound okay. Okay. Now, if there's a lot of scratches on the record, I'm not going to buy that record. If the record's trash, obviously I'm not going to buy that record. If the record has a few hairlines on it or it seems to be dirty, I know that record will play on my turntable. Okay. Now, one thing to do if you're going to go thrifting is to invest in a record cleaning machine, preferably a vacuum record cleaning machine. Now, Project has one. VPI has one, which I have the 16. I think it's a 16.9. That is a workhorse. You buy the cleaning fluid, and even if you're loud budgeting, you're not going to buy the cleaning fluid in the quart size for $22 a quart. You are going to buy a concentrate, which means for maybe $35 or $40, a really good concentrate, you can make 2 gallons of cleaning fluid. It'll last you, whatever, depending on your cleaning habits, depending on how you go about cleaning your records. So loud budgeting will say to you, you know what? I'm not going to buy the quart. I'm not going to buy the pint that's pre-mixed. What you're paying for is shipping, which is heavy to ship. You're paying for their new packaging. You're paying for their mixing. You're paying for all that. So you buy a concentrate with distilled water, a really good distilled water, gallon for $2, $2.50, and you'll make a gallon of that at a fraction of the cost. But invest in a record cleaning machine. That means that when you go to the flea market, when you go to the thrift shop, when you go to a yard sale, when your mom's friend says, "Oh, your daughter, your son is collecting vinyl. I have a bunch of vinyl. I'll give it to him." Those records have never been professionally cleaned. Professionally, I mean by a record machine machine. Because I've had records for 50 years, and I just got a record cleaning machine 10 years ago. By doing a swirl clean with a chamois or a brush, that basically is pushing the dirt back into the grooves. The vacuum will lift them out of the groove. So I recommend a vacuum cleaner, even if you have to invest the $600 in a vacuum machine, VPI or whatever. That's 3 audiophile records right there. Okay, you invest in that cleaning machine, and believe me, those records you find at a thrift shop or whatever are going to sound great. They're not going to sound as good as a masterfully done UHQR like Asia was done, but that's $170. But you could get an Asia first pressing for maybe $35, $40 that are in really good condition because they're out there. Okay, here's another way you could save yourself some money if you're loud budgeting. Now, loud budgeting, I think it's a great concept because people were either embarrassed or didn't want to discuss finances with their friends and say, you know what, I don't want to, I'm not going to buy that record. I have a lot of records. I have a lot of Beatle records. But the truth is, how many people are going to go out and spend, what is it for the new 6-record LP, the red and blue? It's over $200 now. Okay. Not a lot of people can afford that. Like I said, it's a tough economy, inflation, whatever you want to call it. I'm not going to get into the politics of it, but it's a tough economy. And that is money that you have for leisure activities. And like I said today, we have so many leisure activities today that you really have to pick and choose. So if you have friends who have great equipment and are audiophiles, they're going to upgrade. Eventually they will upgrade. They will upgrade their cables, which you could spend $10,000 on speaker cables or on connectors or interconnects. Okay. Now, here's the magazine here. Turntables. $600 for a basic turntable. Interconnects. $400, $500 for an interconnect. Speaker cables, amps, plugs, thousands of dollars for amps. Okay, of course, the technology costs money. The materials that are in these amps and in these speaker cables are silver and copper, sometimes platinum, sometimes things I've never heard of that you have to mine in the far reaches of Africa. And, they're using them for batteries now. So just to fool around with it, you could get a speaker cable that are $5,000 speaker cables for your system. Now, will you hear a big difference? I believe you'll hear a difference in the speaker cables. I'm an advocate of speaker cables, but if you can't afford that, get the heaviest gauge cable you could buy from a cable company. It doesn't have to be a name brand, and that'll improve your sound. Okay. Now, what I was getting at was asking your friends. Ask your audiophile friends, or when you're in discussion, if you're hanging with them and listening to them. Joe is going to be upgrading his project table to a VPI Avenger, and what will he do with his project table? Well, guess what? He'll probably doesn't need two tables. Okay, I don't use two tables. I have other tables, but I only use one. Okay, now some people have three tables set up that they use, but most people are going to use that table to help fund their new table. So you're going to get a project table that maybe retails for $1,500. Maybe you'll get that table for half the price with a cartridge, perhaps with a good cartridge, if that. So ask your friends if they're going to upgrade. Okay. Now another place to go if you're loud budgeting: yard sales, flea markets, thrift shops. Get to know the people at the thrift shops. If you get to know the people at the thrift shops and say, look, Debbie, Johnny, if records come in, can you please give me a call? I'm starting to build my collection. I really want to collect, get some good. Maybe they'll call. Maybe they'll say, hey, we just got a load of records in. I can't hold them for you, but if you could get down here within the next hour, maybe you'll get some, because it's all luck. It's all timing. It's, believe me, if you find a hoard of records in a record shop, in a thrift shop, and you're buying these records that are like, for instance, Boston, Beatles, maybe Stones, maybe some obscure Ohio players, Soul, Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder. These all sold in the millions. They're out there. People are donating records every day. I see it all the time going, did someone die? Why? What's going to happen to all these records, right? They're there. But if you're finding these records at that thrift shop, I can guarantee you that means you're the first one there, or there was only people buying denim jackets to resell on eBay at this thrift shop, or shoes or sneakers. So it's all about timing. Flea markets, it's easier because you could read in the paper or online now, because I really wish they would do it in the paper, but they don't. LPs, old records, tapes, cassettes, CDs. You may be into CDs. Another loud budgeting. Well, I really love that new Beatle remaster, but do I really want to spend $189? I'll buy the CD for $50. Now, I just watched a bunch of videos on Paul McCartney's Band on the Run, which was just released at a half-speed master from Abbey Road. There's a undubbed mix, and there's the regular album that's been remastered. Now, I heard it sounds great, but just like $35, $40, maybe $50 with tax. I know the combination of the undubbed and the Band on the Run record is going for about, say, $70. Plus, you got to pay shipping if you're not going to a store. Then you got to pay gas if you're going to a store. So loud budgeting is nothing to be ashamed of. Actually, it's good for you. Make sure you buy. I'm talking to the young collectors, the young people, and even people on fixed incomes. Myself as an audiophile and as a collector, I really want to go out and buy the new Band on the Run. But I probably have 5 or 6 copies, including a Japanese Band on the Run. They're all in perfect condition with the posters, all this other stuff. Do I really need undubbed with less strings or a different take? At this point, what's enough? Enough is enough. I'm not going to listen to it a lot. I'll play it if a few of my pals come over. You want to hear McCartney's undubbed? We're all Beatle fans. Oh yeah, sure. I want to hear Beatles. Okay, well, okay, that was good. But if you're loud budgeting, maybe you could put that at $35, $50 into something else. Okay, maybe you could save for that new turntable or those new speakers. Speakers, again, $6,000 a pair. So buy used speakers. Get a good pair of used speakers, and of course, watch the videos on YouTube about speaker placement, because speaker placement is almost as important as the speaker room, where your room is, what the furniture looks like, what the drapes look like. There's so many things you could go for. Okay, now go to YouTube, and that'll teach you how to place your speakers. YouTube will show you how to look at records to indicate what they are going to sound like if you're buying used records. I've done a few on uh, going to shops to buy used records. I talk a little bit about grading, and grading records is difficult if you're just grading them by sight. I like to consider myself, if I sell a record, I usually play test that record, and the record may look VG plus, but it's worn somehow. It was played on a table on a cartridge and arm that wore the inner groove, and those records sound horrible for me. Okay, now you might find a record that is trashed in a way where it has a lot of scuffs, not deep scratches, but a lot of scuffs and what I call hairlines, like thin, light scratches. And it's a VG Plus record. I did a video a few months ago on a Kiss record that I bought that was complete. If you look at this record, it is trashed, and I got the record for like $2. I bought it because it's Kiss. I didn't have it. I just wanted it. I got home. I vacuum cleaned it, which is important. Like I said, if you're going to buy records that are used, you really need to invest in a vacuum cleaner rather than buy 3 1-steps or 4 1-steps. Get that record machine clean, because it'll also uh, help your records live longer, the lifetime of living a quality life with that sound good, and it keeps your stylus on your cartridge clean, because your stylus isn't going to be grooving into dirt, into mud, into muck. Believe me, these records that are 60 years old have never been cleaned with a vacuum cleaner. I could attest to that. I'm 99% sure no one had vacuum cleaners 10, 15 years ago. So none of those records were vacuum cleaned. They were cleaned, maybe they were cleaned in the sink with a soap and sponge, or a chamois, but they were not vacuum cleaned where the vacuum is extracting. I also recommend you clean all your new records. I did experiments where I played a new record without cleaning it. Looks great. Then I cleaned it. I get a better sound stage. The stylus is able to get in there at a better depth because it's clean and there's nothing interfering with that. Because when the record is pressed, there's all this residue that is left on the record. So I clean my new records, and I don't like doing it because it's another 10 minutes that I have to go open it, clean it, bring it back up, put it on. So it's another process, but it's worth it. And I try to always clean new. If my son is buying if my son bought a new record, I said, yeah, he doesn't have that kind of type of cleaner. Let me clean the record for you. It'll be worth it. Okay. So loud budgeting, nothing to be ashamed of. Try to save that money for more important things than audio. If you don't really need it on vinyl, buy it on CD, listen to it on the stream. I don't buy streams. I listen to them for free on YouTube and stuff or whatever. I don't buy streams, but I will buy a CD if I want it and I don't have it on vinyl. And I said, I'll get the CD for $15, and if I really love it and I see a vinyl of it for like $35, I'll buy it. But if you're loud budgeting, which is going to be my new, it's almost like a resolution this year. I'm not going to buy every reissue that comes out. I would love to, because I could review them on my channel. I have friends that are going to lend me stuff to review. For instance, I'm going to be doing the Blue album, Joni Mitchell's Blue album. Now, I have a gorgeous original copy of Joni Mitchell Blue, which, if you love Joni Mitchell, maybe you want to get the Blue album reissued on a 1-step. But if you're just a casual Joni Mitchell fan, do you really need blue one step. That's up to you. But for $170, that's a lot of paper. You could go out and buy, like I said, support your record store up the street or in the mall. You could buy 10 records for that. 12 records, maybe 5 records, but you're still getting a much broader area to fill your collection. Like I said, I've been doing this a long time. I've got a lot of OGs. I don't need to go out and buy all these reissues. But if you're loud budgeting, which again, I'm going to use the terminology, new term for people to use when they don't want to spend money. That's it. That's my rant, and I hope it helped. If you like this video, please subscribe. If you have any comments about loud budgeting, if you haven't heard about it, it's all the rage now on TikTok. Over 2 million views since December 29th, which is about a month or so, a month plus of views, and it has gone viral. So loud budgeting is now in our lexicon. You don't have to be ashamed of it. I'm going to relate it to audiophile records systems in this channel, but it goes to everything. It goes to clothes, it goes to makeup, it goes to cars, it goes to refrigerators, it goes to televisions. It's everything. Everything is loud budgeting. Vacations. Do you want to go to Sandals and spend, I don't know, $2,000 for 3 days on a beach? Or do you want to go to a resort that you could spend 3 days on a beach for $300? So it's up to you. Or the Jersey Shore, where you just have to probably pay $300 to actually go on the beach, but it's still closer. So keep rocking. And like I said, if you haven't subscribed, please do so. And I would love to hear your comments about loud budgeting. Thank you. Keep rocking. And if you have any questions, I'm always here. Take care. Bye-bye.